Hello, viewers. Welcome back to another episode of CUTS Adda. And today we are going to discuss about the new buzzword in the geopolitics, which is the SQUAD. Today we have our guest, Don McClain Gill. He is a Philippines-based geopolitical analyst, author, and a lecturer at the Department of International Relations at the Salle University. It's great to have you with us, and given your area of expertise, we would like to know more about the expansion of the word SQUAD and what do you make out of the new geopolitical plurilateral group? Over to you.
First of all, thank you very much for having me. It is a true pleasure and honor. Now, the topic of the SQUAD, I think that the acronym emphasizes the role of security, particularly defense cooperation. Thus, perhaps you could say that that was the main initiative behind putting the S in front of the Quad. And that was, in fact, centered on the idea of more consolidated defense and military cooperation between the four countries, three of which are U.S. treaty allies based on the hub and spoke system. So this is practically an idea of consolidating four-way efforts between and among U.S. treaty allies in the Indo-Pacific to, of course, strengthen their capacity, particularly in the greater South China Sea.
Thanks. This was informative. How do you see this new SQUAD vis-a-vis the Quad? Where do you see the convergences and where do you see them diverging or being different?
Right, thank you. And we have to first understand the emergence of the SQUAD, right? So the emergence of the SQUAD is just as much structural as it is perceptual. Since the rise of the Indo-Pacific construct in 2018, particularly when the U.S. renamed its Pacific Command to the Indo-Pacific Command, that precipitated a lot of important political developments across the world, and particularly in the region. This opened opportunities for like-minded democracies and like-minded partners in the Indo-Pacific to consolidate efforts to preserve the established order amidst the rising tensions brought by Chinese expansionism and Chinese belligerence, right? And of course, one of the core issue areas of these countries would, of course, be the South China Sea. China's increasing militarization, its disregard for international law, has not only altered the balance of power, but also the geography of the entire maritime domain. And of course, for Indo-Pacific democracies like the US, Japan, and Australia, which are also, Japan and Australia are also bilateral treaty allies of the US, because it's a different system in the East compared to how it is in the West with collective security like NATO. So it was necessary to work with a resident Southeast Asian state to serve as an anchor to consolidate efforts in securing the maritime domain. So obviously the Philippines seems to be the most practical option. It is a U.S. treaty ally, a major partner of Japan, and is also a historic defense partner of Australia with defense arrangements dating back to the 1990s. So the problem here was there was a lack of political will in Manila at that time, particularly from 2018 under the presidency of former President Rodrigo Duterte. Given, of course, the whole idea is to not provoke relations with China by seeming quite offensive in working with US-led coalitions. However, under the current presidency of President Marcos Jr., there has been this significant reinvigoration in Manila's political will to play a larger role in the region, in taking part as a significant stakeholder of the established order in the region. Now, moreover, there was a collective realization among all three treaty allies of the U.S., Japan, Australia, and the Philippines, of the need to go beyond, the limits of the hub and spokes network, and to deepen integration between and among the spokes. So that has catalyzed a lot of efforts, particularly with the Philippines working on a reciprocal access agreement with Japan. It has a visiting forces agreement with the US and a status forces agreement with Australia that would enhance troop deployment. So with Japan, it would be more synchronized with existing efforts. And of course, the elevation of partnership with Australia into a strategic partnership eventually paved the way for what we call today as the Squad, or the Philippines to not only deepen its ties with the US, but also the other folks. Now, to the second part of your question, what does this relate to the Quad? Well, given the nature of Indo-Pacific geopolitics, such area-specific arrangements are very much complementary with one another. And if we look into the overarching goal of ensuring the stability of the Indo-Pacific, it is impossible not to factor in India, being the largest democracy and, of course, with considerable military heft, a robust economy that is inching closer to being the third largest economy in the world. There have been commentaries of talking about the Squad showing that okay, India would come later, the Squad first. Well, this is not really how it works, because when we look into the Indo-Pacific, there are two oceans, the Indian Ocean region and the Pacific Ocean region. And most of the existing efforts, AUKUS, Quad, Squad, have been largely centered on the Western Pacific. And in fact, it is India that is doing the heavy lifting in the Indian Ocean region. As we can see, it is not only a net security provider, but also faced with an increasing challenge brought by China's expansionism there as well. But there seems to be less attention towards the Indian Ocean region. So the whole idea is that such arrangements should allow Indo-Pacific powers like Japan, Australia, India, the United States to even out their operations throughout the region. So I think that we need to focus on ensuring that such arrangements are also evenly spread out, particularly in the Indian Ocean region. And it's just recently now that the US is actually consolidating its Indian Ocean strategy, which is quite delayed. And it shows us the limitations of all this. But the Squad is very much centered on what is taking place in the South China Sea. So that is an important contribution to Indo-Pacific stability. But in no way can the Squad replace the Quad in terms of the overarching weight of their operations, given, of course, the material capabilities of all states. So obviously, these are all very much connected with one another, along with AUKUS. The trilateral between the U.S., Japan, and South Korea. That's also an emerging area-specific area. So these arrangements, when working collectively, that's how you could really maximize the effort in really pursuing the overarching goal of ensuring the stability of the region. So this is a very welcome step. This is a very important step, with the emergence of the Squad, which shows also that smaller countries, less powerful countries like the Philippines, are willing to pick up their weight and contribute to the region. But of course, we cannot compare the Squad with the Quad, because that's like comparing apples with oranges, But we have to look into the complementary aspect.
Thanks, Don. That was very informative, quick, and relevant for us and for the viewers of CUTS Adda. Thank you, dear viewers. Stay tuned for more such videos only on CUTS Adda.